So I had absolutely zero ambition to ever become a realtor. I did not want to follow in my parents' footsteps at all. I funny enough, went to school to be a preacher, which
Really?
may surprise you. Yeah, yeah. So went to college to be a preacher. Studied Christian ministry with a concentration in preaching. Dropped out. Decided that was not what I wanted to do. So it was my actually going into my senior year. Dropped out. My mom still hates that, but dropped out. Started bartending. So that's a hard 180. Went from going to school to be a
Hmm.
preacher to bartending. Bartended for about 2.5, 3 years. And during that time, I was just like, man, I got to do something different. And I called my mom up one day and I was like, you know what? I know that, like, if I know you don't want me to bartend anymore. I was like, if you pay for my real estate school, I'll give it a try. And it was not, I didn't want to be like in the shadow of my mom. I lived in at that point in time when I got my license, I lived in a different market. So I felt like, okay, cool. Like if I'm going to do it, I can do it here. I'm not really in the shadow. Nobody up here in like the Greenville area knows of my mom. Like, so it's like I can kind of create my own career. So I was like, I'll give it a
No, for
shot,
sure.
see if it works. Dude, it ended up being great. No offense to my mom because I love my mom, but I watched the way that she worked and I knew the money that she made. And I was like,
Hmm.
if my mom can make that amount of money, I can make more. So like for me, I was like, I'm going to try this. I think I can do it. And ended up being the right move.
No, for sure. Now I've seen that, where it's like, um, because a lot of people, myself included, and this is something I'm personally getting over, or getting through, kind of working through, as I'm coming up on 2 years in the business, but um, is the power of consistency. You know what I mean? And even just being relatively consistent, right? You don't have to do anything crazy. Um, just being relatively consistent does wonders in terms of your business. And I can only imagine what that's done for you, more so seeing as you've grown like crazy social media platform. What got you going in that direction, right? Because obviously you said you got started in 2016. That's kind of when the social buzz started to take off more so. But did you start off like, man, I'm gonna take this angle of making content and doing all this? What did that look like for you?
So no, that's not how I started out. When I got started in 2016, so my mom, you got to understand, like I came in having watched my mom, and that was how I had learned the business. When I got licensed, my mom was the type that had built her whole business off of almost purely like sphere of influence networking type
Hmm.
stuff. I always joke around and say there are these certain realtors that they build their business at church, and that was how my mom had built her business. Like my mom had built her business at church. That like she went, everybody knew her. She talked about real estate all the time, and you could not go to our church without knowing that my mom was a real estate agent. She made it very clear. So for me, I kind of took from that, and I was like, all right, if I'm going to be successful in this, the social game is what I've got to play. I did it a very different way than my mom did. I was the guy that was always like up at the bar, up at the pool halls, up at like anywhere I could be in town that I knew people were, and I would go and interact and meet with them, talk with them, always bringing up real estate. And I very quickly became this guy within town because the side of Greenville that I lived in is called Anderson, and Anderson's a small town. Actually, 27,000 people in the entire town of Anderson.